This is the Fourth and Long podcast with host Alec Pecano. Today on the show, you will get my teams that I'm high and low on for 2026 college football, as well as taking a look at more win totals with my perspective and over-under projections. So, let's jump right into it and get started with the teams I am high on. Part one. First one is Baylor. Make or break year for Dave Aranda. Nowhere to go but up for Baylor from last year. I don't know why. I'm high on them again. I was high on them last year, and it blew up in my face. As you know, I was wrong about them last year. Let's see if I can course correct that and be right on them this year. The second team I'm high on this year is East Carolina. The American is wide open. There's a lot of head coaching turnover. Tulane, South Florida, Memphis, all lost their head coaches to new schools, whether it be Silverfield going to Arkansas or Golish going to Auburn. But I am high on East Carolina. I think they're going to have a really good season this year in the American. My third team I'm high on and for 2026 season in part one is South Florida. Yes, I know they lost Golish to Auburn. I know they lost a lot of production from last year, but did you see by a chance who they hired to be their new head coach? It was Brian Hartline from Ohio State. Did he bring in one of the best transfer portal classes in the nation? And he brought in a good defensive coordinator, a guy that knows the American well, as Albright was the defensive coordinator last year at East Carolina. And I believe this USF defense will be improved this year. And USF is going to be really good. The next team I am high on this year is an SEC team. You know how I feel about the SEC. It is South Carolina. Nick Harper's back, Lenore Sellers is back, and Dylan Stewart. The big three for South Carolina are all back, and they bring in some good skill position players from the portal and some good defensive additions from the transfer portal. And I again, like I said about Baylor, same thing applies to South Carolina. Nowhere to go but up. Last year, South Carolina went 4-8, and everybody's like, oh, Shane Beamer's going to get fired. Well, we'll see. If South Carolina doesn't start the year off good, he might be gone. But who knows? We could see a big turnaround from South Carolina this year. And the last team in this portion that I am high on is LSU. They bring in Sam Leavitt. They hire Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss. And Ole Miss fans do not like this. I'm telling you right now, they are not happy that Lane Kiffin is now in Baton Rouge. And they're going to be out for some bad blood when they play each other in the regular season. Okay, so here's the next segment, which is teams I can't be high or low on this year going into the 2026 college football season. The first one is Mississippi State. I was a little high on Mississippi State last year. I thought they were going to make improvements, make a bowl game. Again, they're another team last year that I missed on, and I'm not willing to do that this year, and I'm not willing to be wrong on them. So they're stuck in the middle for me. I do like Jeff Lebby, and I do like that they're going to have a new quarterback. Not that Michael Van Buren was bad. I think it was time for a change of scenery at quarterback for Mississippi State. The next team I'm not high or low on is Northwestern, because I did this kind of video a couple years ago and I was low on Northwestern, and we all know the result that happened that year. They ended up making a bowl game with an interim head coach, David Braun. And I mean, David Braun is still at Northwestern, I believe. And we know the result. The next team I'm not high or low on this year is North Carolina. I was through the roof high on them last year. When they hired Belichick, I said, oh, Belichick's going to help them win 10 games. I was sadly mistaken. I was wrong. And I'm not willing to be wrong on them again this year. So I have them in the middle ground. Teams that I can't really decipher whether I'm high or low on them. This could... I do like the Bobby Petrino hire for their offense. But again, it could blow up. It could blow up in our face again like it did last year for them. And the last team I'm not high or low on this year for this portion of the show is Nebraska. Dylan Raiola's gone. He's now the backup at Oregon. Anthony Calandria comes in to be the quarterback. I was high on Nebraska last year, and it did not work. So I'm not willing to do that this year, and I'm not willing to be one of those Debbie Downers on him and say, oh, look, I'm going to be low on Nebraska. No. So I have him right in the middle. Now, teams I am low on part one in 2026 college football season. First one is Wisconsin. And the main reason I'm very low on Wisconsin this year is because they've had bad quarterback play the last 2 years. Yes, everybody says, oh, they found their quarterback in the transfer portal. Did they? I guess we'll just have to wait and find out and see if they actually did. If they did, Luke Fickell's probably saved his job. And you won't hear me talk about him much on the pod this year as a coach on the hot seat. But if it backfires and Wisconsin gets horrible quarterback play again, Luke Fickell's probably as good as gone. And you could come back to this episode 29, and tell me I was correct. Another team I'm low on this year, I'm not willing to fall for them and say I'm high on them. It is Colorado and Coach Deion Primetime Sanders. I'm not willing to be high on Colorado like I was the last 2 years, where both years I was wrong on them. Again, they could use this as bulletin board material, as we like to say in the podcasting world. They could use this as bulletin board material and say, look, this guy was talking about us in July, saying we're not going to be, he's low on us. He doesn't think we're going to win very many games. My issue with Colorado is Deion going to start Is Deion Sanders going to start Juju Lewis at quarterback this year? Because we saw last year what he did. He revolving door. It was Lewis one game. It was Staub one game. It was Caden Salter one game. And he ends up redshirting Julian Lewis at the end of the season. So I'm I'm not going to be. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not going to be high on Colorado this year. I'm low on them. Another team I'm low on is an SEC. Two more SEC teams that I'm low on. First one is Ole Miss. I think that run by Ole Miss in the playoff last year was cinema, but I think it was also done to show that they didn't necessarily need Lane Kiffin. But I don't know how much I believe in Pete Golding. That is the biggest matter. That's the biggest issue here. Is I don't know how much I believe in Pete Golding. If I believed in Pete Golding, I would be sky high on Ole Miss. I don't believe in Pete Golding. That is why I'm low on Ole Miss. And the last team in this portion that I am low on in 2026, because there's a second part of this, is Missouri. Again, I talked about Missouri last year and how I was high on them in the SEC because they had Bo Pabula. I'm not falling for it this year. Eli Drinkowitz did get an extension. I still think Missouri's going to be good. I'm just not willing to take the bullet and be high on them like I was last year. No, we get to part two of teams I am high on in 2026. The first one is Oklahoma. And I want to say congratulations to Oklahoma baseball for winning the College Baseball World Series before I get into talking about your football program. But now we transition over to football. I'm high on Oklahoma this year because they returned John Batier. And Brett Venables is back. He saved his job last year. It felt like he was one of the guys we kept talking about on the hot seat, on the coach's hot seat board. After every week on my show or my other college football show I do with Bradley, which is College Football Podcast, which we just had another. We have our first episode of that for 2026 next Tuesday. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. But not to get off topic, I'm also high on Oklahoma because I believe that if they put everything together like they did last year, they could be back into college football playoff. The second team I am high on in part two for 2026 college football season is a team that's in the Big Ten, and they're that gnat that just won't go away, and that is Iowa. I am high on Iowa. I know what y'all are gonna say. Oh, Alec, you're falling for the fool's gold of Iowa again. No, I'm high on them because they always seem to. When I'm low on them, they seem to be the team that sneaks up and like a 2017 before I started YouTube. They pummeled Ohio State. And that was Iowa and Purdue both beat us as an Ohio State in 2017. The next team I am high on in 2026 is Virginia Tech. In the last 2 years I've done it. I'm going to admit the last 2 years I've been high on Virginia Tech, and it's not quite worked out. I do appreciate the hospitality they gave me in 2024 when I went up to see a game up there. I believe it is Trent Wells. Thank you, sir, for helping me get into the press box. But I'm high on Virginia Tech this year. New coaching staff other than Brett Pry, who comes back as the defense coordinator. But James Big Game Franklin is now the head coach of Virginia Tech. And I think that Coach Franklin's going to have a lot more success at Virginia Tech than he did Penn State because he's not having to play Ohio State and Michigan every year. Ohio State, Michigan, USC, Oregon every year. I can see Virginia Tech winning 9 games this year. Yes, you heard me. I can see them winning 9 games in Coach Franklin's first year in Blacksburg. The next team I'm high on in 2026. It's 2 more SEC teams. The first one is Kentucky. The Mark Stoops era in Lexington is finally over. They have a new coach in. It is Will Stein. I'm high on Kentucky this year. I think Kentucky has the chance to win in Stein's first year 5 to 6 games. So they could be going bowling, but they could also be missing a bowl game altogether at 5 wins. But that would be an improvement from last year. The next team I am high on in 2026 is the Florida Gators. Yes, you heard me right. I am high on the Gators this year. I love the hire of John Summerall. That was a home run hire for me. I like it. Summerall brings some of his Louis luggage from Tulane. I think Florida's going to be competitive in his first year at Gainesville. The next team I am high on in 2026, it's 2 Big 12 teams. First one is West Virginia. Second year of Rich Rodriguez back in Morgantown. And I'm buying the dip here on West Virginia. Year 2 under Rich Rod. I think they're going to take a massive step forward. The Big 12, other than Texas Tech, BYU, and Arizona, and maybe Arizona State, wide open. There's a chance that one of these 2 teams, West Virginia or the team I'm going to talk about here in a second that I'm high on, could be contenders in the Big 12. And that other Big 12 team I am talking about is Oklahoma State. The Mike Gundy era in Stillwater is done. They bring in Coach Eric Morris from North Texas. Again, another home run hire. They needed to get younger. They needed to get an offensive-minded head coach in there. And they do. And he brings over his Louis luggage with him. Pretty much his whole entire offense with North Texas comes with him to Stillwater. And I love the hire here. I think there's a chance they win. They finish middle of the Big 12. Not top, but in the middle. Like that 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 range. Maybe somewhere in there in his first year. But they're going to put up a lot of points. And the last team I'm high on in 2026 for part 2 is Auburn. Alex Golish comes over from South Florida. He brings Byron Brown. He brings a lot of his Louis luggage, his offense. The DJ Durkin's back as a defense coordinator for Auburn. Watch out, SEC. I think a sleeping giant is forming. And we got part 2, teams I am low on in 2026 for the college football season. The first one is, I know people are going to say, oh, it's because you're an Ohio State fan. No, it is Michigan. And I'm low on Michigan this year. don't want to go into full explanation, but I'm going to have to. I'm low on Michigan this year because are we going to get an improved Bryce Underwood? How's their offense going to look? Their defense lost a lot last year in the NFL draft and guys transferring. And same with the offense. They lost a couple of pieces on offense that transferred. Justice Haynes, Samaj Morgan. Even though Michigan fans, I know you wanted Samaj Morgan gone. To me, I still see Michigan maybe probably winning 8 games. Next team I'm low on this year for college football is Cincinnati. Sorry, Bearcat fans. And I know I might be visiting you this year, but for a football game, but I am low on you in 2026. Brandon Sorsby's gone. He is not even in college football anymore, so I don't know who your quarterback's going to be. And I think your coach, Satterfield, is probably is on the hot seat. His seat is still hot. Even though you had a good year last year in the Big 12, I still don't see a way that he makes it out of this year. The next team I am low on in 2026, and this is a controversial one that might get some comments. I am low on the Georgia Bulldogs. Shocker. Another SEC team. 2 more SEC teams. I am low on Georgia for 2 reasons. One, what Gunnar Stockton are we going to get this year? Are we going to get the Gunnar Stockton we saw toward the end of last year and in the playoff? Or are we going to get the Gunnar Stockton we saw at times during the regular season? And how's that defense going to look? Because you lost quite a bit on defense, and you're replacing a few offensive guys like Colby Young and Zachariah Branch and Dylan Bell. There's 3 receivers right there. And tight end Oscar Delp. So 4 key guys and some offensive linemen. So I still think you're going to win a decent amount of games. I'm not feeling the same way I usually feel about Georgia. Georgia doesn't scare me. My next team is another SEC team that I'm low on this year. It is Alabama. Another controversial one. I know. And I'm low on Bama this year. It's not because of Kalen DeBoer. It's the offense. Who is your quarterback going to be? Is he going to be Austin Mack? Or is he going to be Keelan Russell? If it's either one, neither one has started a college football, a collegiate game at the college level. So I would be scared if I was a Bama fan. And the last team I am low on in 2026 is UCLA. And it's because they have a new coaching staff, new players. Bob Chesney takes over at UCLA. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, I could be wrong about these teams, but we'll see. Teams I am not high or low on this year for college football. Part 2. First one is Penn State. Penn State's got a new head coach in Matt Campbell. I like the hire, and he did bring some of his guys over from Iowa State. And they do have an easy schedule this year in the Big Ten, but we know, I'm going to say somewhat softer schedule this year. They don't play Ohio State. They don't play Oregon. They do play Michigan, and I believe they do play Indiana. So that's 2 of the 4 big teams in the Big Ten that they play. But I still don't know what to be. I still don't know if I want to be high on Penn State or low on them. And the second team I can't really muster up to be high or low on is Rutgers. Simple. When you're high on them, they stink. When you're low on them, they're halfway decent. Next is Cal, and it's the same thing as Rutgers. I want to be high on Cal, but at the same time, I can't. Then you have Clemson. I don't want to be high on Clemson because they're going to let me down and stink. I don't want to be low on them because then they might be in the playoff. And it's Dabo Swinney. What have we learned? Don't doubt Dabo Swinney. Especially when it comes to him starting to use the transfer portal. The next team I'm not high or low on is two SEC teams. First one being Vanderbilt. Bless me. Excuse me. Sorry about that. The reason I'm not high or low on Vanderbilt is I know they lost Diego Pavia and some other key guys from the last 2 years. But I do like Jared Curtis, and Clark Lee has established himself as a really good head coach in the SEC. And the last team I'm not high or low on this year, Robbie, this one goes out to you. It is Tennessee. And here's my reasoning behind why I'm not high or low on Tennessee. I'm in the middle. Quarterback. Is it going to be Faison Brandon? Is it going to be George McIntyre? Or is it going to be, I believe they also have Ryan Staub. If it's Ryan Staub, Tennessee fans, including my buddy Robbie, y'all are in trouble. I would much rather see Faison Brandon or George McIntyre start for Tennessee. And now, we're going to get to everybody's favorite part. Hearing my predictions. So, here we go. We just talked about how I'm not high or low on Penn State. And look at this. We look at their win total. Their projected win total is 9.5. I'm going to say over, and I'm going to say they win 10 games. Again, I like what Penn State did by getting rid of James Franklin and hiring Matt Campbell. I like the hire. I think it's going to end up working out for both sides. We get to Texas. 9.5 wins. I'm going to say push. I think Texas is going to win exactly 9 games in 2026. Yes, you heard me. Exactly 9 games. But they're going to get an improved Arch Manning because he's got a new toy now and Cam Coleman. UNLV, 9.5 wins. Projected record, 9-3. I'm going to say over. I think they could get 10 wins this year. I think UNLV is going to win 10 games. I like what UNLV's done the last couple of years. Yes, they've lost guys to the portal, but they seem to recoup and bring in new guys. Alabama, 8.5 wins. I told you I was low on them, and I think this win total is the right spot for them. I'm going to say push. I don't think they win less than 8 games. I don't think they win more. I think they win exactly 8 games. And like I said, it's because of their quarterback situation. If they still had Ty Simpson, I would easily say over 8 wins, but they have 2 inexperienced guys at quarterback. Yes, and I know both of them were handpicked by Kalen DeBoer, but still, that doesn't mean much to me because I think Bama's only going to win 8 games. Arizona, 8.5 wins. Projected win total, projected record 9-3. I'm going to say Arizona over that 8 wins. And next Monday, ladies and gentlemen, is my conference preview for the Big 12, the Big 10, the American, and the MAC. So all 4 of those conferences, as well as my top 15 quarterbacks. And I believe I will also have my conference championship predictions on that show for those conferences only. Because in a separate video, we will be doing the SEC and the ACC and the Mountain West and the Pac-12. Yes, I didn't explain that. I'm splitting up. I'm not doing individual conference previews this year. I'm doing it all in 2 separate videos. But back to Arizona. Noah Fafita's back. I thought he was gone. Again, Arizona, over 8 wins. I think they could get up to 10. Boise State, 8.5 wins. Under. Sorry, Boise State fans. I think you're going to win less than 8 games this year. I know your projected record. I'm going to say 7-5. Then again, I could be, like I said, I could be totally wrong. BYU, 8.5 wins, over. Houston, 8.5 wins, over. Some of these I'm just going to say over, under on the wins. Kansas State, 8.5. I hate to do this. I'm going to say under because they have a new head coach. So under their win total. LSU, 8.5 wins, way over their win total. I think they could get 11 or 12 wins with Lane Kiffin. Michigan, 8.5 wins, under. I think, no, push their win total. I think they win exactly 8 games. Navy, 8.5 wins, over. North Dakota State, 8.5 wins. First year as a FBS school. They have the talent. I'm going to say over 8.5, over 8 wins. I just said I was high on Oklahoma. Give me the over-under win total. John Mateer's back. I think he's going to be one of the favorites for the Heisman. Texas A&M over 8.5 wins. Marcel Reed's back. They did lose Casey Concepcion and a few other guys on offense and defense. But Mike Elko, what do these big teams do? They don't reload. They don't rebuild. They reload. Toledo, 8.5 wins, over. Tulane, 8.5 wins. With Will Hall as the head coach, I'm going to say under in his first year because he's still got some holdovers from Summerall's team, the guys that didn't leave. USC, 8.5 wins. I'm going to say over 8 wins for USC. But to me, their swing game is Ohio State. They can win that. They're in a good spot. Utah, over 8.5, over 8 wins. Western Michigan, under. Bowl lock, 7. Arizona State, 7.5 wins. Lock that. Some of these I'm just going to say lock it in. Where did I say I was? I'm checking something, ladies and gentlemen. So Arizona State, I didn't have on this. You didn't hear me talk about them. I'm going to say over 7.5, over 7 wins. They're going to be a lock for a bowl game. Clemson, I told you I wasn't high or low on. And this all but confirms it. This site that I'm on for college football news, has them at 7.5 wins. Give me over, I'm going to say they win 8 games. I said I was high on East Carolina, and obviously this site, these people don't agree. Over 7.5, over 7 wins. Same with Fresno State. Hawaii, over 7 wins, yes. Illinois, under. I'm taking the under. I think they win 6 games. 6-6. Iowa. I said I was high on Iowa. I'm sticking to that over. Because if I say under here, people are going to be like, oh, but you said you're high on it. Yes, I'm high on Iowa this year. 7.5 wins is ridiculous. Give me over. I think they win 8. Liberty, under. I think they win 6 games. Louisville, over. Over on Memphis. Miami University, over on their win total. I think they win 8 games. There's a chance they win the MAC. New Mexico, over. Old Dominion, over. Ole Miss. I said I was low on Ole Miss. Give me under on their win total. I think they win 6 games. I know they have Trinidad Chambliss back. Pitt, under. SMU, over. Tennessee. I said I was... I'm going to say over on their win total. I think this is... I'm gonna say 8 wins. And that does it for looking at win totals and giving my predictions for them. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Don't miss the conference preview video pod episode on Monday. Check out the sportsbreakdown.net website for everything. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday. And happy 4th of July. Have a safe, healthy, and wonderful 4th of July. I will see everybody on Monday at 11 a.m. And that is going to always be the live streaming schedule for the podcast. Is 11 a.m. Unless I put something up on my community tab on YouTube.